guys, it's Carly and I'm back again with another review. So we've made it to the final figure in our Spider-Man No Way Home BAF series, and it's none other than Spider-Man himself. In my last video, I had talked to you guys about potentially taking this figure alongside all of my other Spider-Man figures and doing a live stream comparison to see what works, what doesn't, and which one I like the best. I still really want to do that because, as you know, Spider-Man is my favorite character and I love collecting the figures and going over every detail about them with a fine-tooth comb. So I'm going to be doing that live stream, but also because of those very reasons, I really wanted to do an individualized video on this figure, looking at all of his points top to bottom, just because it's a special character to me, and I feel like Hasbro really tried to do a lot with this, and I want to talk about how successful they ended up being. So we'll be doing a really complete review of this figure today. We'll be looking at the Armadillo figure tomorrow, and over the weekend I'll be doing a live stream where we'll look at everything that I just talked about. I also have a lot of figures that I've picked up recently. I've got a number of series for us to take a look at after this. I've got toys on the way. We've just got lots to decide about where we're going to go from here. So stay tuned for information about all of that. Instagram is always the best place to find me. It's at your_annoying_friend_car, and I will also be updating on my YouTube community channel. Make sure that you're subscribed so that you never miss any of the updates. Turn on your notification bell, and with all of that said, let's go ahead and get right into our review of our No Way Home Spider-Man. So the thing I was most excited about with this figure is how beautiful the suit became in the movie over, you know, the entire series of 3 films and a few in between with Tom Holland as Spider-Man. And I was really excited to see how they brought that to the action figure medium. And I think that just on a first glance, I feel really, really pleased with how this figure looks. I think that they went above and beyond with the paint application. I think the detailing looks really, really beautiful with the gold, the outline around the gold, the blue, the vibrant red. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what they did with the hood, the cowl, I guess. And I just feel really good. At a glance, I think this is a beautiful figure. I really loved the way the character was designed, and I think that across this line so far, Hasbro has done a really great job with these particular Marvel Legends figures. I'm really, really happy with everything that I've gotten so far. Even like J. Jonah Jameson, who isn't the most action character, he's an amazing figure, and I'm really stoked to have him in my collection. So I hope that I'll feel the same way about this. Let's go ahead and start looking at some of the finer details of the figure himself. So he comes with a very limited accessories pack. We've been seeing that a lot lately. I think it's because of the cost of manufacturing. There's a lot of reasons why. It could be because of the size of the incredible BAF, but all he comes with are his fist hands, which are good looking, really detailed for what they are. You know what I mean? We've still got all of this beautiful paintwork and texturing going into the tiniest points on the action figure. We've also got his web shooting hands. So this is pretty standard for any Spider-Man figure that you're gonna get. I did get a little bit of a, you know, a spot on the application on this figure, on the hand here. It's nothing I'm too worried about, but those are the hands that we get. We're sort of used to that now. One fist and one web shooting hand is perfect. I would still really like to see web accessories coming with every Spider-Man figure. I think that that shouldn't really affect the price that much. It should be pretty easy to include those, and we've seen them in the past. So I would really like to see that come along. And I am becoming more and more hopeful, or more and more interested over time in seeing Hasbro create Marvel Legends accessories packs, where we're getting a variety of accessories included, just sold as accessories. Tell me what you guys think about that, because I think something like that, with prices on these things going up, could really open up the world of what they're able to offer and give us better options, rather than just having a super dynamic figure like this with just a couple of extra hands. I think that would be a great way to go. But these are the types of accessories packs we're getting for now, so I'm pretty happy with what we've got. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Sculpt. Now, I'm really pleased with the way this looks as far as the way he looks in comparison to the character in the film. I think it's a spot-on representation of what we saw with Tom Holland in the film when he was in full costume. I am feeling a little bit strange about the red. I feel like this is a one-off red. If you look here, it becomes really orangey on its own, and it also is very flat. So there isn't any detail painted into the web sculpting, which you can see on his neck and the side of his head here. And, you know, he's got his ab sculpt here. So there isn't any detailing painted into it. I don't believe there is in the movie. So that's true to the way that it looks. But what happens on the figure here, you can see, is that it becomes a little bit too flat. Now, with the gold really popping around it, I get the contrast. But the texturing and the lack of detail painted into the webbing makes me feel like this would have been a little bit more effective if they went with something that was a little bit less cardinal red and maybe a little bit more blood red. I feel like this sort of orangey, like almost like comic book color red is just flattening out what is a really dynamic and good looking sculpt with great paintwork around it, like great detailing and sculpting around it. And that if it were a little bit deeper, a little bit more blue, a little bit more like, I don't know, just more of a crimson rather than a cardinal, I think that it would be a little bit more effective and just look a little bit more lifelike rather than cartoony. Let me know what you guys think about that, because this could be, you know, sometimes I get something in my mind and I get really particular about it and everybody's like, you're being crazy. But for me, I think that this color it's too orange. It's too vibrant and it's too flat. I think a deeper red would give depth to the sculpt surrounding the figure, and I really wish they would have done that. I do like the sort of like more military type blue. This reminds me of, I mean, I guess in the context of Marvel Legends action figures, I would call this like a Captain America blue. It's a really deep sort of gray undertone blue. And again, we can see that with this dark color and the vibrant gold painted, the contrast is really beautiful. And you can see a lot of the depth of the sculpt in that paintwork. That's what I would like to see in the red too. So I think the choice of red is a little bit off for me on this one. Whether or not it's 100% true to what was in the film, I feel that in this medium on the figure, it needs to be a little bit darker. That said, the sculpt itself is absolutely stunning. It looks really good. We're getting a smaller figure because Tom Holland was a smaller Spider-Man, but it looks really great. And like I said in my previous black suit Spider-Man video, when we're getting that smaller sculpt, we're getting all of the articulate points, including the butterfly joints, which I'm always so happy about. So let's go ahead and get into these articulate points. We've got a head that always works. Now, when I first started to play with this figure, my shoulders were really stiff. I don't know if you just noticed that now, but like they are very clicky and feel like they need a lot of work. I'm a little bit hesitant to do that because of the detailing on the shoulders. It seems like something that might over time really wear if you work it too much, but I was able to loosen the joints up a little bit with some play. I know that you can do that with heat. Again, with the paint application, I'm hesitant to do that. Or water, again, hesitant, but so they were a little bit stiff, but ultimately they work just fine. You know, they could possibly extend a little bit farther. You see where the cowl sort of comes down here. That's preventing the height that I'm used to getting, that I prefer, but it's still a pretty good, you know, range of motion there on that. We've also got the normal turning bicep. We've got the great double jointed elbows that work beautifully, and turning wrist, which is typical. And then when we're looking at the butterfly joint here, we've got, it's a really loose joint. And I found that in the past, you know, that it tends to be a really loose joint, but I do feel like we've had a better range of motion on butterfly joints in the past. However, I still think it's good, and this is not how you're going to be using a butterfly joint, right? So you're not going to be just having him stand here with his shoulders back. That's not really what they're intended for. It'll be more of a pose where he's slinging a web or something like that, so it'll be a much more dynamic thing going on. But this is just to give you a look at how the butterfly joint is working and the range of motion that we're getting from it. It's not much, it's pretty loose, but I think in an action pose it's going to be really effective and work really well. We've got, of course, the very dynamic ab crunch that we always get on our Spider-Man. Probably not as far back as we're used to seeing, but it never really needs to go back that far. A turning waist that is really great. We've got great rotation in the hips, so we get a really good pose in the legs. He's got turning thighs. You can see that these are sculpted through. We'll take a closer look at that in a second. Double jointed knees and a foot with a full range of motion in the ankle that you can do whatever you need to do with. So overall, I'm really stoked about the articulation. I think it works really well. We don't have a boot turn. I know some people really like that. You all know that I don't care for it, so I don't mind that it's not there, but that is something that's absent on this one. But everything else overall works really well. We have so many points in this figure that are sculpted to like the nth degree. Like, he is sculpted and detailed within an inch of his life. So a lot of the poses I find when you're doing a really dynamic pose with the legs turned in a particular direction, or you're turning the thigh in a particular direction, when you've got like all of this sculpting here, sometimes when there's that much sculpting and detail, like, it can start to make the figure look funny when you're turning the different parts of the body and things aren't aligning right. So sometimes less is more. In the case of the really fine points of sculpting detail into, you know, the sides of the legs, things like this, I think, you know, facing forward, I really like the way that it looks. I foresee that when I'm playing and posing this figure later, that those might end up looking a little bit funny if you're really examining them closely. But overall, they look really great. And let's just look at the golds now, because that's where things can get a little bit hinky. And I think in this case, they have actually done it perfectly. So whenever you're doing you know, this kind of gold application over a really vibrant red or black, you know, we looked at that before, it doesn't take very much for it to come out looking not shiny enough to have that paint bleed through, for it to be worn. If the application is off a little bit, it can just look weird. But I hope you can see, as I'm turning him just slightly right to left, how glimmering and vibrant this gold is, and that there is no bleed through. So the application on mine was really beautiful, and everywhere that they're using this gold in detail, it seems to have been applied absolutely perfectly. So on the shoulders here, on the wrist guards, even to these little details in his waist and the line work on his back, every single gold detail on this figure is glimmering, and like, the metallics are just so good. And that's something I feel that, you know, Marvel Legends have struggled with in the past. I don't feel that the metallics have always been as bright and vibrant and shiny as they should be. They haven't felt like metallics to me, but more like almost like melted crayon, where it's like the essence of gold but not the metallic that I like to see. And this looks beautiful. This is clearly a metallic paint application, and it is a really successful one. So I'm super stoked. I didn't pull a dud on this one. I think that he is absolutely perfect as far as the paint application goes. And the final thing that I really want to talk about is just the sculpt on his face. So with the color of, you know, the red aside, I am absolutely crazy about this particular eye sculpt, the way that his face stands out through his mask. Just everything about this to me is cinematic. It is 100% what I would want for Spider-Man, and it looks really cool. I would have liked an alternate head with some different eyes. I always want something like that. But again, you know, we're getting more limited accessories packs these days, and so as it is, I'm really, really happy with this particular head sculpt. I think that it looks fantastic, and the black on top of this like awesome like blue, almost like, you know, star-spangled kind of blue, red, and gold is just really striking, and I love the way that the black and white eyes sit on top of this color scheme that they've got going on the bottom of the figure. So I am over the moon, honestly, about this figure. I think he looks so great. Other than the reds being just a little bit too orangey for me, I can't say anything bad about the way that this turned out, and I'm super stoked that I pulled a good one with a great paint application. There is just so much detail worked into him that I can't even talk about every single thing. There is like a rippling or a stippling on the hood overall, and on his boots it's very hard to like pick up, but it's like a bumpy stippling that gives all of this amazing texture. You can kind of see it on the bicep here. We've got, you know, armor, we've got wrist guards, we've got just incredible detail from top to bottom, including the webbing that we all know and love. I do wish there was a little bit more detail painted into that, even if it was just shadow, if it was like a deeper red. I just think it would read better on the action figure that way. I just feel like it needs to be a little bit deeper. But other than that, this figure is absolutely gorgeous, and I'm super stoked to have him in my collection. So I hope you guys enjoyed taking this look at the No Way Home Spider-Man with me. I'm really, really happy about the way this figure came out, and it'll be really fun to look at all of my Spider-Man figures with you guys, considering this guy and seeing how I feel like he stacks up with everybody else. Thank you all so much for watching my video today. Please make sure to subscribe and turn on your notification bell. Drop a like if you liked this video. Please leave a comment. I try to respond to as many as I possibly can when people are asking questions. And let me know in the comments what you'd like to see me do next. We'll be taking a look at our armadillo as our next review, and I'll have a live stream where we can talk about that more. Make sure that you stay tuned to my Instagram to find out the schedule of everything coming up. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I hope you have a great day. I'll see you soon. Bye, friends.